We have a twofer. Snow and Shreya.
How's everyone doing? You look so thrilled. So I'm Noah, this is Shreya. This is my slide though, so just a quick introduction. I'm a computer science engineering major at Ohio State University. I was actually a former geek in the front end stores, not with the computers. I was an auto tech, so I'm used to working with my hands. Remote starters, security systems, stuff like that. Definitely cool, working on that end and then seeing how stuff works up here in the Magic Castle. So being here is pretty nice. And I was a part of the Shop Re-Engage team this summer, and I have to say I couldn't be happier with where I was placed.
Yeah, I do. I thought this would be ironic since I'm a back-end developer. I put it in a text file, but crickets, so I tried. So I'm a sophomore this year at Iowa State University, and I'm a double major, so I'm a computer science and math major. Here at Best Buy, I'm actually a summer associate intern, but here I'm on the shop team, Re-Engage, and I do back-end Java development. Two possible future interests are like web development, maybe machine learning. I'm still trying to figure my life out here, so hopefully that goes well. Move on.
Yeah, so coming here, I really had two big goals. One, I want to make something cool, and two, I wanted to have an impact. So I guess whenever I heard about the Gamers Club widget, I was pretty excited, just because I knew it was on the account home. I knew people were going to actually access it. It's going to be something I can say, hey, log into your account, check this out, and something to be proud of. So to get from A to B, how am I going to do that? That's the big question. So up there were a few technologies that I was going to use, but I didn't know that coming in. So the very beginning, it was about learning, making, and repeating. Over and over and over. So it's just learn, make. And if you notice up there in the top right-hand corner, you'll see a typical Hello World example, but a lot sweeter. It's the Avengers. So, the cool thing about that is it's this.properties with React. I know we talked about React a little bit before, but it's super nice to be able to pass a name through and then just repopulate everything and reuse stuff. And it's kind of a crude example, but these are my humble beginnings. So it's kind of nice. And then I used a book written by Karuba something. I think his last name has like 17 letters, so I'm not going to try to say that. So going from this, how are we going to build? All right, no, so this is diving deeper. So diving deeper, and I need this, come on, I'm setting you guys up. So React is a technology that I was super excited to use. The community, everybody behind it is just super geared towards making this one of the best things in the market. I started to explore my own. It's all about learning and making over and over and over, and that's what I kept doing. So on the outside, I found out about React Native, and basically, I made a simple to-do app with React Native, and it's going to be on Android and iOS. So that's pretty cool, and Microsoft has plans to actually implement Xbox React somehow, some way. I don't know how it's going to happen, but that's pretty sweet. It just shows you the power behind React. So other than that, you can see on the 27th, I had a pretty great day. I was just, planning the presentation, eating some bacon, and making an app. So it was a good day. Now, so this is kind of what the 2-for-1 deal is about. So I did the front end stuff on the Gamers Club widget, and Shreya was all about the back end. So from my perspective, basically expecting a dish full of data from her on a golden platter. I have to sift through, massage it a little bit, and then display it accordingly. From Shreya's perspective.
So I did the back end part of the project, and I'll talk about that a little more when we get to the slide, so I don't want to ruin it for you. But basically, Noah gives me data, and from that data, I go through a bunch of classes and either collect content or load content, hard code content in my class, and then pass it back to Noah, and we'll go through the gist of it. It's in here.
Don't let her trick you. It's very hardcore what she's going on. So let's talk about these reusable components. I know John mentioned it, and a few others. This is the beauty of React, right? Like we can pick something up like a building block, place it somewhere else, it renders great. And for even the product people out there, I feel like you can find a respect for this technology. It's super just nice to use. And if you want to pick something up like the products, place it somewhere else, it's there, you know, it's great. So if you notice here, I don't know if you have the yellow, yeah, you have the yellow. So that's like my main widget component. So if you were to make another widget on the account home, with a few minor tweaks, you can take the JavaScript out that renders the title up there. You're gonna be able to make another widget that has the same size, the dimensions, stuff like that. It's just nice. I mean, you know, it's all about convenience anymore, and that's part of this. And on the next slide, we have templates, and this isn't necessary. I like the templates, top and bottom templates, so I can squeeze in other tiles. And it really took care of my margins, my padding, stuff like that. So it was kind of nice to have that. Somebody else might not use it in the future, but it's there and it works. So, and these are kind of like the meat and potatoes. So like, we're gonna be referring to these for the next 10 slides or so. It's really just, yeah, it's about like these three guys in the very first version of Gamers Club. So whether you're a non-member, you're a member, or it's expired, we're gonna render those three things differently. At the top, or you're only gonna get one though, so it's not gonna be three. Right here, this was in the beginning of me just trying to like work on CSS and whatnot, but you can at least get a good picture of what the components are and what it's gonna consist of. So the next step is the back end.
So the back end, I promised you I'd get through this a little bit. So basically Noah gives me web user data, and with that web user data, I will go through a list of classes, and I will either get a huge JSON file, which are just an object of data inside it, and I'll have to find what data Noah needs to pass it back through him, or I will hard code data in a properties file in my own code, and then through my class, I will retrieve that and send it to Noah. So that's just the gist of what I do. And then, yep, these logos aren't here for no reason. So I used I coded in Java for the most part. Some of the new things I learned are like JSON, using the RESTful API through Spring. And the tools I used are mostly like Jenkins, OmniTank, Jira. Yeah. So the most important part of our whole project was this handshake, and for some, oh, here we go, was this handshake part of it. So me and Noah had to come up with a contract because his front-end code and my back-end code have to piece together. So as you can see on your, I don't know for the audience, left-hand side, is the actual contract, and we did this in a JSON format. So it was very important that he expected what I was giving him, otherwise it would have been a disaster. So within the data, those are some of the objects and, sorry, not objects, data that I would pass back to Noah. But the catch is that he wouldn't always get every single piece of data. It would depend on what scenario the web user is in. So if the web user was a non-Gamers Club member, he would only get the the 3 URLs, the member type, and the manage content part of it. Whereas if they were an unlocked member, he would definitely get all that data over there, and then an expiration date Boolean value indicating whether they were an expired member or still an active member. You'll see that soon. We'll give you a visual. So here I'm going to talk about how I did that. So I created a class called Gamers Club Widget Data Service, and this is a sequence flow diagram. I'm not going to go through like too much of it and bore you guys, but as I was presenting to this, someone actually said, hey, those little boxes look like French fries, so refer to them as French fries, so I'm going to do it. So the little French fries that you see, they hold each class, and then the class that I created is the Gamers Club Widget Data Service, and you can kind of see the flow of data and the methods I use to retrieve that data and then send it to Noah, and then when I send it to him, I will test my own class to see if that's working. That's just the right test parts. This is the activity flow. So this is a back-end representation of what I'm doing. So most of you are probably sitting there like, this is code, I don't get it. But so this, you can kind of see that each diamond, green color diamond is kind of a decision-making point in the code. So it depends, like what is returned depends on, you know, what decisions you make and what the answers are. So like, for example, if the club code is unknown, then you can see that it will return a non-member, and then it'll give Noah the 3 URLs immediately, so you can go through. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so, I mean, all of that flowchart, I mean, in a nutshell, for the product guys out there, and, you know, just to simplify it a little bit, those 3 guys up there, the blue, the green, and the orange, those are going to render based off of the logic on the back end. So we had a handshake, and they're going to render appropriately based off the green diamonds and the big gray ovals that were on the last page. So yeah, so after we took care of this, basically, like, you know, we had to figure out how we were going to do a handshake, you know, with the contract and everything. And I had to make mock data, you know, like, because I'm not going to just keep pulling a repo and, you know, using her stuff. There's no good way to do that. So basically, we're going to mock it out. With that, I did, you know, some JSON, and I actually worked with Craig on this on our team, and he had a genius way of having radio buttons and working out some scenarios with that, and it worked out great. But right here, you can see it's just something that I use locally, and eventually we would get it to the upper environment, and I would use her stuff, but we both had to do it locally first. And yeah, and the last thing on that slide was just basically figuring out how to render everything with JavaScript. So that was a great time. But yeah, so this is the fun stuff. So I'll let Trey take this.
Yeah, so this the title, obviously the quotations, it's ironic. Because when you think you're done with your code and then you go and test it, it kind of hits you back in the face, like, nope, you're forgetting something. So the way we came up with a step-by-step process of testing it to kind of explain it. But once you're done with your code, like, each of us has to test it individually, like locally. So the way I do it is the JUnit tests I use to test my code, and then I can put my code in an individual OmniTank environment and test it there, check the page source logs to see, you know, if it's returning what it's supposed to. And then after that process, and Noah will go through how he did that, we'll test our code together on OmniTank to see if the visual is accurate. So Noah?
Yeah, so like she used JUnit, I used something, you know, called Jest. A lot of you probably use it. So Jest and Enzyme, and it was really cool. I've never used it before with JavaScript, so made it nice and convenient to do all my testing. The reason why I said this is just the funnest, you know, is that a word? But the funnest page is because the environment's supposed to be a big issue. You know, like, I don't know about the ecosystem and everything in Best Buy, but it's just, I mean, come on, it's kind of a hassle, guys. It really is. Like, all the environment issues and all that. But, you know, in the rundown, it works, and, you know, we did the right thing, so that's it. But yeah, so after you know, everything goes great with OmniTank and all that, we have to get it to QA. So we have to send it to our guys that are just trained to hammer on our code and, you know, put it through the ringer, different browsers, mobile, all that good stuff. We didn't get it through the first time, so we had to fix a few things. We'll talk about it. But let's just talk about the positive stuff. So we did get it live. That's the positive thing. We went live on the 27th of July. So if you guys would pop open your phones, you can go to it right now, but don't, because we're presenting. But you should totally do it after this. If you notice on the left-hand side, that's actually my personal account. I am a Gamers Club member. I have been for like 1.5 years, so I was pretty emotionally attached to this project. It was good. But yeah, on the left-hand side, as you can see, it's rendering properly over there. We got the green calendar. We got all the stuff that we need. Looks all right. And then on the right-hand side, that's actually my wife's account. She's not a gamer, so it's rendering appropriately. So, you know, this was like a huge milestone, especially with humble beginnings as an intern. If you ever wanted to see a grown man with a beard dance like a schoolgirl, you should have been there. But
we were both hitting refresh like at least 10 times in a row to see if it was real or not.
It's a cool thing, you know. There's, especially from, you know, just doing school stuff and like local things. Like, going live is pretty cool on one of the top 10 websites. So yeah, version 2, you know, like, yeah, we went live, but what's the next step? So it's basically to do managed content in the version 2, we're gonna call it. So what this guy is, it's gonna, you know, kind of run the same gist. We're basically gonna make those reusable components. We have to mock some backend data, and then we have to, you know, write some JavaScript and, you know, collaborate, all that good stuff. But what's interesting on this page is the colors, right? So I use Flexbox with this. The rest of the app is built with Bootstrap. I haven't used Flexbox before, but the reason I went that route is just so I could basically, like, you know, if they're gonna send me multiple widgets, I can expand it, contract it, and make it pretty a lot more seamlessly without Bootstrap. So, you know, the colors are great just because I can visualize whenever I add stuff or mock more data, it's gonna, you know, expand and contrast and all that good stuff. And then obviously I added bacon because it makes everything better. That's a part of my testing practice. You can see we have no bacon fans in here, whatever. But yeah, so this is basically both of our codes together in OmniTank. And it's rendering with them sending me widgets. So it could set the widget, you know, the vocabulary that I'm using here is each widget is gonna be each Gamers Club picture and the content that comes along with that. So they could send me 2, they could send me 3, they could send me 4. More than likely they're just gonna send me 1, but I have to be able to make defensive code to be flexible and contribute for that. On the left-hand side here, we only have 1. As you can see, it's a valid unlock member, and on the right-hand side, we have a non-member, and there's 2 mock widgets that are sent with that.
And since this is kind of expanded, I'd also like to mention, like, you can actually see the data being utilized here, like the December 31st, that would be data passed in, the renew now link, the actual, like, site control, the site control details, like what color to use, what font to use, etc.
Yeah, so some big takeaways. I guess the first thing that we learned is curious George is cool. Not really, but we need to act like him. We need to stay curious, you know, ask questions. There's a ton of genius people around us. You know, that's the thing about corporate. Like, you don't get here by accident. So you're gonna ask people questions, and you can't be shy about it. You know, you need to be able to network with people and say, hey, give me some constructive criticism. Hey, help me out with this. Something, you know, it's about expanding and broadening your horizons. You gotta keep learning. You know, like I mentioned earlier, you gotta learn, make. And then the other big thing is communication, but I'll let Trey take that.
Yeah, so what I've learned is that communication in corporate is like a game of telephone, because, you know, one person might need something and the other person might interpret it completely differently. And it's just like, keep updating yourself, make yourself clear to other people, and then make sure what your understanding is actually accurate. So I definitely asked a lot of questions, you know, to keep updating myself, and it's okay, like, you know, you can give up your ego to make sure what you're doing is right. And then, so the small little hinge that me and Noah faced is this Boolean or string, and what it was is that Noah was expecting a Boolean value on his end, and I was returning a string value. So it was a quick little fix, but I mean, we both figured it could have been avoided, and it would have been cool to put on here. So, yeah.
That's why we did it, because it was just cool to get on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's cool because, you know, that's such a subtle thing. It happens all the time here, I'm sure. But we learned, and we're going to be able to be more mindful about it for, you know, the rest of our developer career. So that's it for Gamers Club. So yeah, that was us two. We had a blast together, and it was just overall a really cool project to work on. So in the middle of version 1 and version 2, I kind of didn't really have anything to do because we were working on getting the site control configured and, you know, some other things. So my manager came up and said, hey, you know, I need these things done to this page, I don't like it, and so I took this on, you know, and as you can see behind me, this page is pretty modern and awesome looking. So obviously we got to make some changes. So my goal was basically to update the environments, add a settings pane with some custom configurable features, and you know, make it pretty. You know, make it more modern and make it so it's TV friendly. This is going to be displayed on a big flat screen. So those are my goals. If you go to the next page, this is kind of what we came up with. You know, more modernized. The 3 main, you know, prominent pieces of information that we need are displayed right there. So this isn't just because we have a team of old guys and we can't see. You know, it's because you're going to be across the room and you've got to squint, or you're going to look at these different environments. You want to see what you're doing, and, you know, from a distance. But basically, if you click the settings pane on the side, the next window is going to pop up, and you know, you see all those checkboxes. So this is kind of where I had fun with it. it's going to roll out. You're going to be able to select different environments that you want to display, and you can actually refresh the page by inputting however many minutes you want it to refresh on, and it's going to save everything. So like if you would get up from your computer, close your browser, whatever it is, it's going to save in the local storage. I've never done that before. It was definitely cool learning that. It's something I can take away with JavaScript. Yeah, it was definitely fun to use that, and then use ES6 promises and expand it in that area. But yeah, this was overall just kind of a fun Node project to work on, and it was pretty beneficial. I'll take some stuff away. But other than that, just kind of want to thank the re-engage team. You guys were super hospitable this entire summer, even though we're interns and sometimes interns just get coffee, but we were coding right next to you.
For sure, and a special thanks to like Asif, Tony, and Craig, because they really helped us a lot and made us go live, and we're really excited about that.
Yeah, it was overall a great summer, and we thank all of you, and please feel free to ask us any questions at the end.